As I mentioned, voters in Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Minnesota, and Texas have been heading to the polls today for critical races. And a major focus has been on Georgia, where a record number of ballots were cast ahead of today's contest, despite the left's claims last year that the state's new voter integrity law was Jim Crow 2.0 and would suppress voters. Well, what are some of the takeaways from today's primaries and runoff? Well, here to give us an overview is Virginia Aabram, a congressional reporter at Washington Examiner. Virginia, welcome to Washington Watch.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
So what are the big races that everyone is focused on, that they're focused on today?
So, as you mentioned, in Georgia, we have a few pretty high-profile races that we're looking at. We have the gubernatorial primary as well as a Senate primary in Georgia. So with the gubernatorial primary, it's a really interesting situation that you touched on just a few minutes ago with former President Donald Trump having recruited and endorsed former Senator David Perdue, to run against Brian Kemp, who is the sitting governor. And so that's definitely showing some faction within the Republican Party between President Trump and his former vice president, who endorsed Kemp. And as we saw in that clip a little bit earlier, over if the election integrity issue is really going to make a difference at the ballot box, because that comes down to what this primary is about. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that for just a moment, because I think we see something in the early voter turnout numbers. What can you tell us about the early voter turnout?
Well, it definitely shows that what Democrats were saying about how these new election laws were going to affect voter turnout just isn't true. There are record numbers of turnout. This is high enthusiasm election. In other states, we've seen that Republicans especially are very enthused, almost double the number of Republican turnout primary voters in some states than Democrat.
Could it be that voters may see they have more confidence in the election system with the reforms, and therefore they're turning out in higher numbers?
Definitely could be. You never really know how voters are going to react to something until there's an election to test it, and that's what we're seeing tonight.
Well, hopefully we'll get some exit polling information on what has helped spur on that voter enthusiasm. Virginia, thanks so much for taking time to join us today. Great to talk with you.
Thank you so much.